I'd be standing right there, and then they jump this star.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, you got to get your exhaust work down there.
It's running. Is that crazy?
Yeah, I know.
That is amazing.
Well, Janet, you going first?
No, I'm not going to ride in it.
So this is the first car, not this car, but the first car I ever rode in was a Karmann Ghia, 69 Karmann Ghia. My dad had it.
That's the same year as this.
Yeah,
69.
yeah, 69 hardtop. It was green, but
Karmann Ghia's got to be one of the prettiest.
some of my
cars
earliest
ever
memories
made.
are riding around in this same car.
The thing that's cool about a Karmann Ghia is its age well. I mean,
You told me about some of the problems you had getting a couple of things to match.
The lines.
Yeah.
It's just, I love the hardtop. That's why I like the hardtop better, because I love that rip line.
I don't care for
Yeah,
that.
I think it's better. You put in?
I agree. I've got, let's see, count the cells. There's 30 lithium cells in it.
Oh, you want the lithium? That's
Yeah,
right.
and they sit right in here in the luggage compartment behind the back seat.
Oh, okay.
They're like books on a bookshelf. They go this way. They go.
Well, that's what I was reading about. That almost all the newer ones are going to the lithium. Oh,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are lithium packs. Huh?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Lighter shirt on. It's gotten warm.
Cool.
So
So you get way more capacity for far less weight then.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Get more energy density out of it. So you guys know, you rode in this car before.
When it was gas.
Before I bought it, yeah. It was
Yeah,
gas.
I saw it when it was still gas.
Okay, so you
I saw the partial conversion.
you know the before and after. My
I think I rode in it one time, but I never drove it.
I think I drove this one time when you did a parade or something.
I tried to get my dad to sell me one of them for a couple of years, but he was a little resistant to let go of them. And finally last year he broke down and decided to sell me this one. And bought it without the motor, and it seemed like whereas before, I don't know if he thought it was that great an idea at first. He kind of seemed like he was sort of on board once we started running with it.
Oh, trust me, we've been talking about it a long time. A lot.
Now you need a fan
So-
to cool that, huh?
Yeah, that's my motor controller.
Yeah.
So-
it gets hotter.
Well, you know, it gets warmer than I like. I started without it. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I couldn't. You know, I can run without it, but when it's hot and I've driven this one, it's real. It's over 100 outside.
Yeah.
It was a little warmer than I like, and I mean, I had to, you know, I was shooting it with the gun and put my hand on it, and finally decided, yeah, I'd like for it to run a little cooler than that. So, yeah,
Cool.
put the blower on it. So the motor, this is a DC traction motor, and it plugs directly into the transmission. So
So is it 24 volt?
this motor runs between about 70 volts and 120 volts.
Okay, so it's
So it's way higher.
much higher voltage, yeah.
Yeah, so the lithium pack puts out about around 100 volts.
Oh, okay.
I could have gone with some more cells and had a little more power in that.
Yeah.
I might have done that if I was redoing it again today, but
I'm
you know,
familiar with what they did in the 70s and Weatherworth News. You know, those are all 12 or 24 volt, and they're all lead acid batteries. And, pretty crude setups. You know?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you here's my observation on this thing. So, I don't know if you noticed, I got some model airplanes there, are hanging. I fly those RC planes.
Oh.
When I got into that, about 2002, and when I got into it, I'd say 95% or higher of the planes were gas.
Yeah.
And they ran, when I say gas, they ran on the type of fuels like a nitro oil mix, and some even ran on gasoline. And today, they're almost all electric.
That
So-
hasn't been that long.
So electric I watched electric catch up with gas and pass it up.
When I was in the
terms
Air
of-
Force Academy, I was in a model club, and everything was gas, or some type of fuel, you know.
This was pretty recently because you haven't
Of
done
course,
it.
that was back in the late '60s, early '70s. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I watch that transition, and they really
Interesting.
improve the batteries. The lithium, they use a little different type of chemistry on those. They're lithium polymer. The chemistry on mine are lithium iron phosphate, LiFePO. They're called A123 batteries. They're the same kind that you have in your hand drill.
Okay.
They're very safe thermally and stuff like that. But the ones we use in the planes are lithium polymer, and they've got really cheap. I mean, you can buy one of those for one of these planes for like $10.
Oh, wow.
And the chargers work really well. They're fast, so you can go out, and if you've got a couple of batteries, like 3 batteries, you can put the other ones on charge. They'll charge in 5 minutes, and then you can go out and fly for 15 minutes.
Nice.
You can fly longer than you can fly on gas.
So can these be recharged rapidly?
Yeah, it's the same idea. They call it, the charge rate, they call it units or C. So if they say you're charging at 1C, you're charging at the same rate that they're rated, that you can typically discharge them at.
Okay.
But on these, like on these model airplanes, they charge them faster. They'll charge them at two times or 3 times the discharge rate. And same thing's true with, if I had the kind of charger that would do that, I could charge this thing. I mean, I could be pumping 200 amps into that battery pack.
Wow.
My charger doesn't do that. I have a much cheaper, charger than like you get if you buy a commercial vehicle like a Tesla or something. They've got 10 kilowatt chargers on those, and they can really charge that fast. Yeah. There's I don't know. Are you guys familiar with crowdsourcing? You know
Yeah.
what that is?
Well, I know what it is.
So on the internet, they have these sites. There's one called Kickstarter, and they basically, let's say you had an idea of something that you wanted to build, and you sort of had a proposal for that. You could go on a site like Kickstarter. Somebody did this with a charger while I'm thinking of it. They said, we have this idea for this battery charger for lithium batteries, and they said we think it'll cost, whatever it is, $20,000 or whatever it is to do it. And then there are people that watch that, and then they'll throw in $1 or $2 or $5. Next thing you know, you've raised $100,000, and you can go, build. That's called crowdsourcing. And so there was a charger that was done that way. That I was thinking, this was a future project when I saw it. Maybe buy one of those chargers, and then I could charge this thing up in about 15 minutes.
Right.
But that's not how it works. I plug in, like I'll come in at night, I'll park in the garage, I'll plug in just a regular power extension cord. Next morning she's fully charged, ready to go. No matter
What's your
how
range?
quick it is.
What range?
I can go, and I drive, in the city, I can go maybe 40 miles. Now, if I was, not going so fast, like I'm driving normal road speeds, and I'm accelerating, I'm getting on the gas pedal pretty good. So maybe I could go farther than that if I was trying to. But under, just typical conditions, about 40 miles.
So the transaxle is still a standard shift, so you still got to go through the gears and all that.
Yeah, although the thing about electric motors is they generate a lot of torque.
Right.
So I can start this thing in 4th gear.
Right.
Now, I don't know how good that is on the transmission.
Right.
and I typically start it in 2nd gear rather than first to save a shift. And I've started it in 3rd gear quite a number of times also. And even 4th gear I did by accident. I was in a hurry, and I was coming home, and 2nd and 4th are both down on the tree, and I got it in 4th, and next thing I knew I was going like 40 miles an hour, and I looked at the RPM gauge, and it's like, crap, I started in 4th gear. I didn't even know I did it.
Wow.
Now, did you do anything like regenerative braking on it? Or anything
No. That's a little more sophisticated function, and I didn't really even consider it. I was just, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and any modern day electric car, they'll have hybrids, they'll have regenerative braking. So they capture power when they're braking, and they put it back into the batteries or whatever, and that increases. That's how they get
Increases your range.
yeah, like a Prius. So those they have higher mileage in the city traffic
Because
than
they're
they
stopping.
do in highway.
Yeah.
It's backward, yeah, because they're recapturing their energy. Now, so electric motor, there's no torque on the shaft. Like right now, you can turn this motor shaft with your hand. If you reach up under here, I can do it. See how easy that's
Very, very easy.
There's nothing, there's no holding power on that at all. So I have to set the parking brake.
Yeah.
But that's
Can't leave it in gear.
You can't leave it in gear. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why I shift it without. I don't have a clutch. Clutch is not installed. So when I'm shifting gears, I'm just kind of listening and sort of synchronizing it myself. And if it's out a little bit, well, it doesn't take that much energy to get the shaft of that motor. So when it, the teeth start touching, it'll sort of sync up, and it may grind a little bit, but it's not like a gas motor. When you're out seriously and there's so much force, so much torque, just idling, it can be pretty ugly, as you know, if you sort of miss the gear.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much weight did you add to it over what it was originally?
Pretty close. I'm within about 150 pounds over the original weight.
Over the original.
Yeah. The motor is kind of a swap back here, and I shed a few things that go with the motor.
Of course, you don't need a tank of gas. So,
Yeah.
Don't need a tank of gas.
Saves
Yeah.
you a little weight there.
Yep. But overall, I figure I came out a little heavier on the deal. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what you got here. So the motor's here, and then this cover was my dad's. I had my dad's, the mechanic that did. What's that?
The guy in Somersville? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He did this before it came up, and so there's another piece that goes with that underneath. It's sort of a splash guard for the motor to keep it, so I can drive it.
Oh yeah.
I can drive it in the rain. Although they say you can do that, I kind of didn't like the idea of that. And this motor, it does not run hot. In the hottest day and the hardest I ever run it, that thing is just no warmer than the bumper back here.
Wow.
It just doesn't get hot at all. Now the motor controller, it's another matter. That's the part that gets warm. So I added an RPM gauge. This was a custom kind of deal. And the way I did this, I happen to have one of these. I just happen to have one. It's a frequency to voltage converter. So I bought a Hall effect sensor that they use for RPM. It's a camshaft sensor. But any of the off-the-shelf tachometers and stuff, they're all made for cars, and they have to have like 72 teeth on them or these kinds of things. So I couldn't easily just sort of do that, adapt it. So I bought this Hall effect sensor, and you sort of program these. You configure them, and they convert frequency to voltage. So I just set it up so that it would convert the frequency of this shaft into a little voltmeter, and I relabeled the meter, and so rather than being 0 to 10 volts, it's 0 to 10,000 RPM.
Yeah.
Zero.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
And then it's got you'll see it when I show you the inside. So that was one of the custom things I did. And there's two sets of instrumentation on this car. There's an old-fashioned set of panel meters that you'll see inside the dash. Just like the old style, you see the needles going back and forth on them like that. And they tell me RPM, battery pack voltage, battery pack current, and the voltage of this, which is a 12-volt battery, and it runs all the lights and all the stuff that normally ran on 12 volt in the car. This 12-volt battery is way oversized. That's a big deep cycle marine battery, and it'll run this car way longer than the lithium battery pack will ever. When I got...
So in other words, you can leave your headlights on for the 40 miles and it isn't
way longer. I mean, it'll run those headlights for days. But if I get everything turned on, worst case, maybe 7 hours. And I mean, everything running full blast.
Did you have to wire that for a separate charger then when you plugged it in?
I have a separate charger. There's one outlet that this plugs into, and there's 2 chargers inside of this car. And there's one that trickle charges that battery separate.
So overnight it'll charge that one and your lithium pack.
And the
you're all
lithium
done.
battery
Okay.
pack. Exactly.
Cool.
So back here then there's things that are related to the instrumentation. This is a big shunt. It's a really low ohm resistor. That feeds the paddle meter for current. This is a Hall effect based current transducer, and it goes into the high tech. So I have a parallel set of instrumentation with high tech. I have a Wi-Fi hotspot in the car, and I'll show you this later. I got an instrument panel that'll come up on my iPad. It comes up on my phone or any computer that I want to plug into it.
Yeah.
So when you guys take a test drive, I'll let you guys hold this, and you can look at a number of things. And the reason I have 2 sets of instrumentation is I didn't fully trust this. This is kind of experimental and kind of new, but those old-fashioned meters, they always work.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
it's going to glitch out.
Techno nerd.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Kidding?
So
Well, Todd is pretty much a techno nerd. He knows a lot more about this stuff than I do.
So the original cars had their throttles right back here by the motor. So this is where the throttle cable came in. So I've got basically just a fancy pot potentiometer that's made for that. And this took a bit of work to kind of get it in the right space and get the tension on that spring right. But I actually have 2 springs. There's a spring on the pot that's down in the corner, and then I put a second spring on it for redundancy, because I'm concerned about, if that thing breaks or sticks or something, or one of the springs breaks, then now you may potentially got a throttle that's wide open. I guess you'd have the same problem with the original car. I installed up front I have a separate key switch that will disable that throttle. Now, if your normal ignition key switch will de-energize the entire power section, this power section of the car. So I have 2 ways of doing that, but
Like a kill switch.
they're kill switch. But the throttle one will do it. The problem with the key switch is it opens up a contactor, which is just a big relay. And if you open up a contactor like that with a motor like that under power, I can promise you it will rupture that. That thing's rated for 2,000 amps, but it will damage that part. It will
Damage the relay?
It'll damage the relay.
Okay.
I can guarantee you that. There's no doubt in my mind. Behind this high voltage thing, there's a knife switch, and that's a marine battery switch. It's rated at
on tractors sometimes.
Yeah, got a real high. I put that in just as a safety disconnect device because can you imagine the first time you turn a motor like this on? I've got it up on jacks, and you don't know if it's going to run away or what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I got to have all these things in place in case something goes wrong. I didn't have a problem like that, but I was prepared for that. So I had it up on jacks, and I was back here. I had alligator clips, and I was just barely touching that thing and see which way is it spinning. What's it going to do when I first put power to it? Is everything right?
Right.
And it was actually spinning the wrong direction, and I didn't even know which way the train. You can't find that kind of information. I told my dad, go out and look at the motor and see which way it's spinning, which is the right way that shaft's supposed to be spinning, and it was backwards. So I had to flip the stator on the motor windings and get it in the right configuration. Yeah, it was going reverse. So things like that proved to be kind of interesting. And there's a lot of sensor cables and stuff, power cables that come through the corner here. There's all this wiring that goes back to the instrumentation. But that's basically what's going on back here.
So
I guess.
what actually controls the speed then? You're adjusting the voltage, or you're adjusting the amperage?
So here's how it works. So this is a motor controller. It's a speed control, and it uses something called pulse width modulation.
Okay.
So if you were looking at what's going across the motor, it's in essence voltage. So as you pulse that thing faster, you're creating more and more until probably when you got it wide open, it's probably no different than just a switch.
Straight
It's
flat line.
Just like that. It's just a straight line from the batteries, and it's just almost like you just threw a knife switch, and you could take that thing out of there.
So it's just a longer peak of your pulse. It's a longer peak as you're putting more voltage into the motor. You have a longer peak of the pulse, and the valley is short.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what pulse width modulation is you're modulating at a frequency, and you just turn it on a higher percentage of time. You know.
So you're getting a higher percentage of high voltage as opposed to no voltage.
Now it has a low frequency. The frequency for the PWM is low in really low speeds, and that lets you get a little bit of an audible, so you can tell it's moving. Like people will put, even like I understand hybrid cars are like this. They have some kind of sound maker thing, so when you're backing out of you're in a parking place or something, people hear
can
you.
tell you could run. You're running even. Yeah.
So you can hear this a little bit. You can hear a little bit of a high pitch. That goes.
Prius has it. It would make a little bit of a noise.
Okay.
Not much.
Do you still have the Prius?
No, he sold it.
Okay.
But he's fine to get another one.
my friend Barry's got one, and his sister's got one too. He does courier work down here in town, and he loves his Prius. He loves it. He's always going on about the Prius.
Yeah,
he loved it, but he couldn't save any money because his payments were too high.
He went down to Texas. He bought it. He bought the thing. He got a bank note on it.
He can get them for
and he's put over 100,000 miles on that. Yeah, since he bought it.
That's really cool.
So this is the back. So the next thing is the battery pack. I got the seat down. That doesn't take the whole luggage compartment for those lithium batteries.
That's pretty cool.
I can put 3 notebook computers in here, and so when I'm if I'm stopping somewhere, and I don't want to leave my notebook computer, on the floor or something.
Right.
Here in Kansas City.
Right. Somebody will bust your window.
Somebody might. Yeah, you hear it, and this happens. I know it's happened to people. They'll bust your window. Yeah. So I just put them back in the pack and standing up on end like that, and then I shut this.
Back seat.
And so in the battery pack, there's 2 rows of these lithium batteries that run across. And I'm monitoring every single cell that's in there. A cell, if you look, it's about the size of like a small cereal box. And those things are just standing on end, and they're sandwiched together. And so when I bought that, I bought them as individual cells, and I just laid them out in the configuration I wanted and stuck them in there. And there's a metal cage that holds those. It's bolted to the frame of the car. It supports it in all 3 dimensions. So back, forward, up, down, to keep it,
So you don't hit the brakes real hard and have it in your back.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Or somebody rear ends you and end up putting it in your back. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's really, they're in there really secure. And so there's the connection, there's some communication cables that go back down. They go through this, it's called the channel, to the front where the electronics are, which I'll show you. And I can see the temperature on every single cell. I can see the voltage on every single cell in the battery pack. And normally I don't care about that. There are times when I've cared about that. When I'm going in the extremes. I was the hottest day of the year. Last year it was 105, and I wanted to know, because there's no circulation in there, and I want to know what's going on back there. Am I getting too hot? Where am I?
Right.
These batteries kind of like it hot, and they were totally fine. They're more bothered by the cold than they are the heat. And that just hasn't been an issue on the heat side.
I had a reconditioned battery company years ago, and we set up battery plants out of these old battery packs out of these old telephone company batteries, the old glass ones,
Yeah.
And the guy had a wind charger in North Dakota, and he had a big greenhouse, and we set up a whole system there. and they monitored them with hydrometer. Each cell with a hydrometer.
Wow.
Because it couldn't tell any other way which cell was going bad or which cell wasn't holding charge.
See your instruments up there.
So every month they would, oh, that's how you did it, okay.
Yeah.
Every month they would shut the thing down and disconnect it and check each thing.
There's where you put some gasoline in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get a better look.
And
at
there were
the-
48
when you get
batteries
in.
in that system, so it took them quite a while.
We'll just video, and I want to get a good shot of that.
Yeah, that's so those are the there's a couple of idiot lights that I have on there. Motor hot. There's a one called BMS fault, which is the battery management system. It's monitoring the batteries. If it's think something's wrong, it'll light that. And then the reduced drive that's a recommendation from the BMS. You know, you're getting low voltage or something. It's recommending you back off on the accelerator a little bit. Just a warning, but it's not a do or die thing. And then the 4 old-fashioned meters that are down there do the like battery pack voltage, battery pack current, the 12-volt battery in the back, and then the RPM gauge. And then the 12-volt battery, that actually worked out pretty good being able to see that, because I was able to troubleshoot a few issues with I had the old 12-volt he had given me, and it wasn't that good a battery. I didn't really realize how it was doing, and it changed how the power electronics worked a little bit. I put another interposing relay in between that and some other things that were running on the car, because I didn't like what I was seeing with that 12 volts. I want to see that thing pretty stable when I'm operating. I don't want to see it dipping 2 or 3 volts.
Right.
'Cause if it does that, it could cause things to open up, like my big contactor, or and really kind of mess me up when I'm driving. So I put some effort into making sure that was working pretty well. So the
I love your charging.
power plug.
That's awesome.
So I got an extension cord that just hangs right here next to the plug. So when I come in at night, that's all I got to do is that, and I walk away. And the next morning,
4:09 in the morning.
she's fully charged. Now to sort of carry this to the next, charging to the next level, I'm looking at maybe putting some solar panels
I was going to ask
Where
you
I work.
how you think that with solar would work on.
on this. It would be great because my charger doesn't take a whole lot of power, so I wouldn't need a ton of panels to do this.
Covered parking space. Yeah. You get a bang for your buck there. You have a covered parking space with solar panels.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
exactly.
So this is the charger for the lithium batteries. There are a variety of technologies for this. This is more the older, not quite as efficient, but really solid. Really built like a tank. This is the 12-volt battery charger. Yeah, that's something you've probably seen this company right here.
Sure, yeah.
You guys may
I
have
bought a
one
couple
of their
small ones before they use on like maintainers.
maintainers. It'll charge it's rated at 1.5 amps, and the 12 volts are always good. This guy right here is the BMS electronics. It's the battery management, so it helps me charge safely, and it gives me the warnings on my battery pack if something's getting too hot or a cell's getting too weak or something like that. And these are the CAN bus COM cables that go down in through the channel, along with a lot of other instrumentation wiring, back to panel meters and different things. And then I've got a bunch of breakers in here and kind of some custom stuff that's tucked back in under there. Those
To be an electrical engineer.
Yeah, it has its advantages at times. But
now there's certain
Yeah,
things, they
so-
don't make anymore.
So is this in case you find a stranded motorist, or?
yeah, exactly. So I have an extension cord here, and I've used it a few times.
Oh, it's extension. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the radiator.
Yeah,
That's the radiator,
Oh,
yeah.
I gotcha. How cool.
So,
I
yeah.
love how you've
Yeah, good
kept
idea.
the.
You get somewhere and need to charge it.
You've also kept it with the original design of the car. You haven't done any,
Exactly.
you know, like when everything's closed up, you could almost never tell that it wasn't.
People can't tell, and
Only from the gauges under the dash.
yeah, and even I left all those. I thought I want to leave those gauges in there. I know the fuel tank. I could put stuff in there, but you know, yeah. Exactly. That was part of the thought that was going through my mind as I was adding to it or making changes. Was to
It's kind of tight. I'm afraid you're
And
gonna.
even those gauges under the dash, a lot of people may not know what
they
they're
don't.
anyhow.
Yeah, they don't. Most people
They
don't
think it's
see
part
them
of
or
a factory
initially.
stereo system or something.
Exactly. Yeah, it could be anything. So I did install. I got a electric window defroster heater
Oh, I see. Yeah.
in the winter because.
Years ago, I had a Karmann Ghia, an old Karmann Ghia, and we had one that plugged into the cigarette lighter and blew hot air on the windshield because I was running around to keep it defrosted. My wife used to say, "You should ring it up for a hairdryer to work better."
That's right.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that.